Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a review of City of Gold Tarzan from Tarzan the Epic Adventures by Trendmasters. This was a line of Tarzan and Edgar Rice Burroughs figures that was put out in the 90s. And as you can see, this is in the standard black packaging that we've seen in many of my other reviews. It looks very, very nice. And just like normal, you have the cross cell in the back with all the different figures and many playsets you can get in a line. And if you look on the bottom right, you can see that it is worth 2 Tarzan points. So let's go ahead and open it up and take a look at the figure within. And before we get started, I just wanted to point out that the stickers on the packaging, it says this toy is not electronic, no batteries are needed. So thank God they put that on there, otherwise we'd just be lost. But seriously, there are talking figures that do use batteries in this line, so it was just letting us know that this is not one of them. So let's take a look at the accessories. So it comes with the same bow, arrows, and quiver that you're going to find in the jungle version of this figure. And so the difference here is they all have gold paint and gold string. And so the quiver is nicely detailed, and the gold string is just a really nice touch. And of course you get the arrows. They're of a flexible plastic, so you know they may be warped or something, but you can bend them back into shape if you need to. It also comes with this knife. I believe this was used in other figures as well, but it's quite nice. And the same is true of the cape here. This was used on other figures as well, I believe, but it is nicely sculpted, and we'll see what it looks like on him. I would be remiss if I didn't mention it came with this gorgeous golden badge. Now, the badges come with just about all of the toys in this line. This one's gold because it's the Jungle series, but it also matches the figure, which is kind of cool. But I have a ton of these, and you will too if you end up collecting this line. So let's talk about the figure itself. So this has a standard Tarzan body that you're going to get on all the different versions of Tarzan. Now the head sculpt is new, and you're going to notice something weird about this. This is straight out of the packaging, but it has stuff on the face, like some kind of dusty material. I'm going to go wipe this off real quick. And so a wet napkin mostly took care of that problem. This is actually a unique head sculpt for Tarzan. The other 5.5-inch figures have a standard Tarzan head. This is different because it has this harness on it. And so, as you can see, it's nicely detailed. And it's just different from the other Tarzan head sculpts. So the armor is very nicely detailed. You can see the little symbols sculpted in it. And it is so shiny. And you can look at the nice, shiny red jewels in here. He's got spikes on his gauntlet. He's got this armor. It's even got a lion on his chest here, which, lions are commonly used in the City of Gold. I'll talk about the novel in a minute. And the armor is meant to be looked at from the front. It doesn't cover the back. And this string here, it's golden, but it's actually meant to be cut so you can actually put the cape in these peg holes. So we'll be doing that in a minute. So this could be a coincidence, but one thing that this overall design made me think of was Rob Liefeld. Rob Liefeld was a very popular comic artist in the 90s. He still does some stuff every once in a while, and that head brace is just pure Rob Liefeld. He used that on a lot of his characters, most notably Shatterstar from X-Force. And so oftentimes his villains would wear armors with spikes on them and wear capes. So again, this is very reminiscent of Rob Liefeld to me. And so I've nicknamed this figure Liefeld Tarzan. It may be a coincidence, but it certainly seems like it is probably influenced by the popular superhero designs of the 90s. So this figure does come with this little sheet of paper that says you need to cut the string, not just to put the cape in, but to actually remove the armor. So we're going to do that. There's also a bunch of tape on here holding some of the armor pieces on, so we're going to cut that off and see how he does without all that stuff on there. I will say it drives me nuts to cut something this beautiful with scissors, but obviously this was not made for adult collectors like me. This was made for children to play with, so that works.
And actually it works really well. I cut all the plastic. It was actually not tape. I always make that mistake. It looks like tape, but it's actually plastic that gets wrapped around some of the pieces to try to make sure they stay on. But everything is staying on just fine. There's no problem with it, being loose or slipping off or anything like that. And so while the armor looks cool, it does create some practical challenges. For instance, I cannot get the knife in the sheath through the armor here. And so the cape just doesn't peg in very well. This is about as good as I can get it. Both pegs won't fit in those holes at the same time. It just kind of sits there. Honestly, I don't think you really need the cape. And the cape just gets in the way of posing him with the bow. So he holds the bow quite well. It's got that beautiful golden string. The quiver will hang on his back. It'll hang loosely like this. It has the arrows in it here. But again, you can't do that with the cape. So I think he's probably just better off without the cape. And so after you take off the breastplate, the knife goes in this way. Now, all of the armor pulls off except for the belt. The belt you have to dismantle at the knife. You take off the sheath, and then you take off the belt. And that is how the belt works. And so here is Tarzan with all the armor taken off. And so if the armor leaves any type of residue or specks on him, just scratch that off. It comes right off the body if that happens. And so as you can see, it is a standard Tarzan body, except the sheath will be missing from it, which is attached to the jungle version. Here it's a separate piece that is attached to the belt, as I've shown you. And you're going to have him with that harness on his head. You can't take it off. It's part of the sculpt. At first that bothered me, but I guess if you think about it as Gladiator Tarzan, maybe that makes a little bit more sense. I suppose it's going to just vary from person to person what they think about that. And the armor just snaps on and off, so he can wear as much or as little of it as you want him to. And once you get that knife in the sheath, you can then put on his chest armor, and so he can then wear the knife with the armor. And because all the 5.5-inch Tarzans in this line have the same body, you can interchange the armor pieces between different versions of Tarzan. And as you've seen in my other videos, Tarzan of Mars closely resembles this Martian warrior from a Frank Frazetta painting, and the belt that comes with City of Gold Tarzan closely resembles the belt that this Martian warrior is wearing. I just wish there was a silver variant of this belt. And so here's City of Gold Tarzan with the other Tarzans in this line on the 5.5-inch scale. And so here he is with Numa the Golden Lion. Now Numa has a golden saddle, which would imply that a figure should ride him, but the 5.5-inch figure is a little bit big for that. He doesn't really balance very well. You have to get him just right. The bendable figures are much better for this. And here's the bendable version of City of Gold Tarzan. As you can see, the gold on him is much duller, but he does fit on Numa better. And if you would like your City of Gold Tarzan to have golden weapons, you can arm him with the bendable figure's golden sword and the golden spear that comes with Numa the Golden Lion. So let's talk about how close this is to the novels. So this is inspired by the novel Tarzan and the City of Gold. And this armor he's wearing, I don't believe appears in the novels. This is pure artistic license. The armor worn by the warriors of Cathni was actually decorated in gold, and it wasn't pure gold, but they did use gold for a lot of things. It was called the City of Gold for a reason, so it's not unreasonable to think on a return trip Tarzan might get decked out in something like this. As far as Numa the Golden Lion, I thought he was probably Jodhpur because that was the way he was described in his description as being Tarzan's faithful lion. But with all of this golden armor, he may be a lion used by the warriors of Cathni. He could even be Queen Nemene's personal lion, Balthar. The lions were used for hunting, and they were also used for pulling chariots. They didn't ride them like horses like you see in the toy. And by the way, this is a Joe Jusko cover for the authorized edition of Tarzan and the City of Gold, which should be coming out any day now. Tarzan and the City of Gold was adapted into an episode in the Filmation cartoon, and it also had an adaptation in 2 issues of the Gold Key comics. And by the way, they later reused that story from that episode of Tarzan for an episode of He-Man, which was called Tale of Two Cities, which was adapted into a mini comic called Slave City. So yeah, everything's connected to Burroughs, it seems like. And so overall, I do recommend this figure. It just looks really cool, and it's just so unusual. You know, it's just weird to have a Tarzan figure that looks like it came out of a Rob Liefeld comic. And it's just so cool to have, you know, gold on a figure that's this shiny. I mean, I can see my own reflection in it while I'm doing this video. So anyway, next time we're going to be looking at John Carter of Mars. Yes, I did finally track down that extraordinarily rare figure, so that will be our grand finale for this batch of Tarzan the Epic Adventure reviews. So join us, like and subscribe for more videos, and until next time, see ya.